Ladies and gentlemen, it's on or about 6:30, and I will call this meeting to order, and I'll ask everyone to please silence cell phones and other electronic devices. And I have a motion moved by Councillor Anderson, seconded by Councillor Bateman, that Council approve the June 17th, 2019 meeting agenda as presented. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Are there any opposed? The motion is carried. And I'll ask if there are any declarations of pecuniary interest, and if so, please state the general nature thereof. Deputy Mayor Vink.
Thank you. I'll be declaring on 9.9. I am currently a board member on the Brian Todd Memorial Fund, so I won't participate in that conversation.
Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you. I'll ask if there are any announcements from members of council. Councillor Bateman.
I'll start with last week. I can't remember the day because it's been a busy weekend. The Trenton Memorial Hospital Foundation AGM and K Stafford Awards. I just wanted to mention there was 2 local residents and students, 1 Loyalist student and 1 ENS student that won $1,000 bursaries. Community Care Northumberland received $6,000. Quinty Access, $25,000 I believe for another bus to complement the fleet. And Lower Trent, $8,500, which is good for this area. And my only other announcement is a personal one. My daughter decided to go into labor 3 weeks early, so I spent my weekend rushing to London, and she had a healthy baby boy, 6 pounds, so I couldn't be happier.
Well, congratulations, Grandpa. I will revel in calling you Grandpa. I can assure you that. Are there any other announcements? Councillor LeBlanc.
Councillor Bateman and I attended the Military Wives Choir in Covington on Saturday night. And how they raise money is they auction off cakes and squares. So I got some squares and Mark got a cake. But their voices were amazing, and they gave a history on all the songs that they were singing going back to the early 1800s, which was very nice and well attended for Carnival.
Thank you, Councillor LeBlanc. Councillor Tadman.
I just wanted to give kudos to all the people that organized last Saturday's celebration of the renovations in the library and the dedication for the Children's Library to Bill. It was very well attended and very well done. And so many people expressed how thankful they were that Bill Pettingill was recognized.
Thank you, Councillor Tadman. Anyone else? Councillor Rowley.
On behalf of community events, we had a great inauguration of our new Statesman Memorial Park. Very well attended. The food bank would like to publicly thank those who bought 50/50 tickets. It'll be a great boost in our arm as far as filling shelves for those who require them. Great evening.
Thank you, Councillor Rowley, and on behalf of Council, please thank the committee and its chair for all the work you did. It was a really great event. I believe every member of Council came out to that, so that was great. Anyone else? I had the pleasure of golfing in the Brighton Army Cadets golf tournament on the weekend. They are supported by the Department of National Defence, but for various trips that they take outside of the community, they need to raise funds so that those monies go to fundraise for those kids who are involved in cadets and are able to do those tours and travels. And it's a good group, and they're a good group in our community. Councillor Tadman.
Thank you, Mayor. And also, I noticed that you were there at the beginning, but it was a really well done retirement party for the retiring CIO of Lower Trent, and well received by all. And also, we have a new CIO, Rhonda Bateman, no relation to Councillor Bateman as far as we know, but you never know these things. But anyways, it was a really good turnout.
Thank you, Councillor Tadman. Councillor Anderson.
And I hope I don't bring down the excitement of what everybody's done this week, but I know a number of us attended the Lakeshore area last Friday. I was down there Friday night, and I've never seen a storm or waves on that lake pound the daylights out of the poor people who live out along that shoreline. and in Greenway Circle, etc. So I'm not trying to bring down anything here, but it's pretty serious in what those folks have gone through. Mind you, they do live on the water and things happen, but I certainly hope that the province or somebody comes to the aid of them on their cleanup and where they go from here. So we'll be talking to them, and hopefully there's something on the horizon to assist them in some way.
And when I was down talking to those same folks, they had nothing but good things to say about our staff, our public works staff, and our fire department, who have been on scene on an as-need basis and doing a good job. And I know those crews are getting tired, but they'll still show up if anybody needs help. Councillor Tadman.
And further to that, as everyone knows, it depends on which way the wind blows, who gets the worst around the bay. And we certainly got attacked from the south and southeast and south winds, and there's a lot of damage at Gosport. And the west end of Gosport, some of the roads are even closed, and even the Bay Street that was reconstructed was at times hardly passable. It was way over the whole water, and on the east end of Bay Street, it really took a pounding, even with all the rock and the sandbags. You just don't stop that kind of waves. So it was coming in all over the place.
Has the water breached over Baldwin yet?
Could I talk about that when we get it further into the meeting? Because I have something to say about that, because I do have a bet with someone here.
I look forward to what you have to say later, I think. Anyone else for announcements? Councillor Bateman.
Just one more. I'd like to remind everybody, if you haven't heard of it, and if you have, just to remind you, Operation Stand Proud in Quinte West on the 29th. There is still time to register to not only break the world record, but to also the funds go to the Canadian Armed Forces charity Soldier On, and they're getting registrants when I last spoke to them today, all the way from Ottawa, Quebec, all over. So this is going to be huge. So if you want to register, you have to go online, and your name will be part of history, and so will the area.
Thank you, Councillor Bateman. Last time, moving on to the adoption of the minutes from May 21st. I have a motion from Councillor Anderson, seconded by Councillor Bateman, that Council approve the May 21st, 2019 Council meeting minutes as presented. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? The motion's carried. We have no statutory public meeting this evening, so I'll call up our first delegation, President Paul Langevin and Chair Cheryl Langevin of the Raise the Roof Committee from the Brighton Legion. And you both know the deal here, but it's you have 10 minutes to present to Council, and then I'll open the floor for Council to ask any questions.
My memory's not that good, I can Your Worship, Councillors, my name is Paul Langevin. I am the President of Branch 100 Royal Canadian Legion. And we are here this evening to express our appreciation to the members of the Brighton Council for awarding our branch a grant of $20,000. Your support was not only important to us in terms of putting the roof on the building, but also as a concrete confirmation of your belief that Branch 100 is an essential asset in this community. So on behalf of the branch executive, the branch membership, and all of those who use our branch in terms of its facilities, services, and programs, thank you very much for your generous support. Without your input, it may not have been possible to reach our objective. So just a brief update on our campaign. So our donations so far are 16,000 and change.
116.
Oh yeah, right.
There you go.
Yeah, 116. So we're only about 4,000 from our objective, 120,000. And we're going to reach that goal because we know we have some more money coming in. Personally, I never thought we'd ever raise that amount of money in such a short period of time. I forget, when did we start?
November.
In November. But so many people stepped up, came forward, and made it possible to raise this money. It was not, for me personally, and I think the committee, it has not only been a humbling experience, but an eye-opener, seeing our community come to our support. As the executive, I want to assure you that we are totally committed to ensuring the ongoing financial stability of the branch, and we're moving actively in that direction. Just one point, we did have a major setback in our campaign. About 2 months ago, the HVAC on our roof decided, somewhat unexpectedly, to die. This machine is up there and it cools and heats our hall, the upper hall. And it's impossible to repair it, so it has to be replaced. We are very fortunate because out of the blue came one of our members, Wayne Lalonde, who is also a mason, and he told us that he was going to approach the masons to see if they would raise the roof. And the masons did just that. They made a donation to raise the roof with the stipulation that we could use it to replace this HVAC. And their donation will cover that cost. Otherwise, we would have been in caca. So, without hope? You have little hope. So I'm going to hear about this when I go home tonight. So for us, there's no doubt that the stars have been aligned over this campaign. It's unbelievable. It's almost like somebody up there is looking after us. So finally, in closing, I would like to invite the members of the council to our appreciation event that is scheduled for September the 15th from noon until 4. Comrade Cheryl and my wife here will be sending Mayor Ostrander a formal invitation in the near future. So if you have any questions about this event, here's Cheryl. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll open the floor to members of council. Any questions? Councillor Tadman?
I don't have a question, and I know you like questions, but I'm going to make a statement if that's okay with you. I'm going to do it anyway, so.
You carry on and we'll see what it
Thank
sounds
you.
like.
When the floodings first started to happen, and this may sound like it's not a part of you, but it is, our CAO said it wasn't going to flood Baldwin Street. Well, I would be an island if it flooded too much because I live at Gosport. So, you know, in insurance, you buy insurance, but you're really hoping you never have to use it. Eh? So I gambled the $5. We're big bettors around here. And so it didn't flood. It came close to flooding, but it didn't. So I said to him before the meeting, I'm going to give you your $5 because you won. Because I think it's receding, hopefully. So he said, well, the Legion's coming tonight. You give that $5 to the Legion. And I said, well, I'll match that 5. And how did it get to 20? Anyways, he didn't have any money.
My guess is bad
We
math,
borrowed
but-
10 from Doug LeBlanc, and so 20 towards the 4,000. And I'm sure that there's people around this table that would like to help out with that 4,000 too. So there's your.
Thank you very much.
Please don't do that.
Are there any other comments, questions, or donations from members of council?
Yeah.
You weren't done?
No.
Oh, good Lord.
I just want to just say that we actually approved it, but it's the residents money that do this, and I know that the residents have all been behind you in this, so this time, most of the time we get the blame for everything, but this time we're getting a bit of credit, and it really we don't deserve it. The residents do.
The residents will receive all their support on Appreciation Day on September the 15th. Some already have, but that'll be the general day.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? I have a motion moved by Councillor Anderson, seconded by Councillor Bateman, that Council receive the delegation from Paul Langevin, President, and Cheryl Langevin, Chair, the Raise the Roof Committee of the Brighton Royal Canadian Legion. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? The motion is carried. Thank you both. Our second delegation is from Mr. Stevenson of the Bay of Quinte Regional Marketing Board. Doug, if you will. And you know our 10-minute rule, right?
You bet, and I'll stick to it this time because I think I was guilty last time of going over. Mayor and Council, thanks so much for having me. Just want to take you through a quick update because it's been a little while since I was last here and since we became partners again. And I had a great opportunity to do some orientation with Deputy Mayor Vink and also met with CAO Castleman a little while back, and they both suggested that I come and bring this update to Council directly. So I just want to take you through briefly what we've been up to since we formed the partnership and how things are looking at the Bay of Quinte Regional Marketing Board. So as I mentioned, I was able to meet with these two folks. I think we had some great meetings and had some great discussion and starting to understand what this partnership is going to look like. And I've also been able to extend those meetings over to Northumberland County and actually meeting with some folks from RTO8 shortly as well. So it's been a while since I've been in the fold with the municipality of Brighton. So especially those external organizations, we're just trying to learn what everybody's doing so we can most effectively do what we've been tasked to do, which is marketing, tourism, and resident attraction for Brighton and our other partners. So I'm happy to report that our 2019-2020 business plan has been passed at an interim level. We're just waiting for a municipal accommodation tax update from the City of Belleville, which I believe is actually coming at their council meeting next Monday. Once that decision has been made with respect to what kind of budget we might receive there, then we're going to be able to finalize our business plan. But I did provide a link that you can click on and go see. Not a whole lot will change other than amounts that we'll be spending on projects. As part of our partnership, we've also joined the Brighton-Cramy Chamber of Commerce. Councillor Anderson actually reminded me I had staff over at the community center tonight doing a workshop, and so we worked through the Chamber of Commerce and through the BIA to provide an introductory workshop and almost an orientation session on, hey, you're a business that relates to tourism and resident attraction in the municipality of Brighton. Here we are. Here's what this partnership's all about. Here are the tools that you're now at liberty to take advantage of. So hopefully there are throngs and throngs of people over at the community center tonight taking that in. And of course, for anybody who's curious, if they'd like to learn more about that after the fact because they weren't able to attend, we're always there around the office. So we've been integrating Brighton into our marketing materials. Our flagship product, the Discovery Guide, is out with 40,000 copies being distributed across the province. We've actually already distributed about 16,000 of them. Because of the timing of the partnership, we were able to sneak in some Brighton content. We did some surveys last year on the tourism side, and two of the top things that came back as attractions in southeastern Ontario were downtowns and beaches. So almost too perfect that we could feature those two things for your community in this Discovery Guide. And so these are going all the way from North Bay to Windsor, over to the Quebec border, and actually about half of them in our primary target markets, which are the GTA, Ottawa, and Kingston, and then the bulk of them as well locally through high traffic networks. So, for example, we're pretty excited to be working with Sherry over at the Chamber to get them into the Big Apple. We've also produced our Bay of Quinte map. So this was produced before the partnership was in place. So this is something that will be a lot more robust from a Brighton perspective next year, but we do print 50,000 copies of these. They're more a local piece, so not throughout the province, but for inbound people who are trying to explore this region, or yourself if you're looking for new things to do. So I do weekly updates on the radio, so I've been integrating Brighton things onto that. For example, this past week, I was talking about a nature walk at Presqu'île. There was also an open house at Toby Developments that a certain Stephen Toby reached out to me to tell me about, so I was talking about that. We have these digital kiosks that I mentioned that are all across the region. We're actually going to work to get one into the municipal office here so the folks from Brighton can experience that. So we are slowly integrating tourism and resident attraction businesses from Brighton onto that. We have started that. It's going to be a long process because there's, I don't know how many, but I think over 100 businesses that we got to put on there. From a web point of view, we have created a community page, so Brighton has representation on our website. We're also going to be doing some enhancements to that through the summer, included on our whole website. And we've been going through and finding other content that we can add Brighton content into as well. So there's new blog content in the works. We've also already been able to post some Brighton-related employment positions to our websites like quinnyjobs.ca and quinnyjobs.ca/trades, like the planning position that was being offered through the city. Brighton's been integrated into all of our social media, so we're speaking with over 40,000 followers on a daily basis across all the social media you're current to, like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and so we've integrated Brighton into our messaging on a daily basis. And then our own Trevor Norris, who's over there as part of the workshop tonight, was just in New York State. So he was there on a sales mission in collaboration with Ontario Tourism. There were about 10 other regions who had gone on that trip, and he presented to over 150 people from largely from AAA, but also from other travel agencies, so more to come there. And of course, we continue to integrate Brighton content and meet small business owners, the members of the Chamber, the members of the BIA, and work with the folks in Brighton to spread the message. So this is just a little bit of an update on where we've come since the partnership was formed, some of the products that have been created, and where we hope to go. I'm happy to take any questions.
And I'll open the floor to members of council. Councillor Anderson.
Well, thank you, Doug, for jumping in and getting some content in these. I know your time frame was really short, and I hope that there's a little more emphasis on the photography. It's okay for now to start, but a little bit of water. I mean, nice clean water photos and things like that would be beaches, things like that for the next time around.
Sure, that's good feedback.
But I think it's a good start, and I think we'll see the value in it down the road for sure.
Thank you.
And we have a lot of water, too.
Not all water we want to photograph, right?
Councillor Rowley.
Thank you, Mayor. Doug, just pleased that Brighton is back under your umbrella. And as Deputy Mayor Vink and I kind of pushed our council to move this forward, this is going to be a great partnership, and I see nothing but good in the future of this.
I agree.
Thank you.
I agree. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councillor Tadman?
I didn't support this, and I think I was the only one that didn't, and I haven't been convinced tonight either. When I open this, we're not even mentioned in the front, and I know we've got a couple of business or whatever and a little bit about Presqu'île, and as I said before, if we're promoting tourism in Brighton, Presqu'île can't contain anymore, and right now they can't even accept because of the high water, so I won't be supporting this again, but I will abide by council.
That's also good feedback, by the way, because I wasn't aware that Presqu'île was at capacity.
I mentioned it last time that they have 260,000 visitors a year, and every weekend it's at capacity.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Councillor Anderson?
Not to debate. Tourism is 12 months of the year, 365 days of the year. And yes, there are successful times of the year for certain tourism facilities, right, Doug? And then there's times that needs a boost. I think anytime you bring attention to a community that's trying to build economically, and whether it's through tourism, which is a big driver for tourism in some communities like this one, I think you need to we appreciate that the park is so busy, that's great, but there's spin-off that can be had by everybody in the community, and I think, I'm not satisfied with the limited amount that was put into that booklet for the, and I said that from the beginning. Here we are jumping on board and we're putting some money into it, but I think your organization did it in a short. How much time did you have to put that together?
Well, we were made aware of the partnership the week before we went to print. So we had these 3 pages that were available because advertising wasn't sold, and the decision was made to put Brighton content in there. But it could have very well been that there was no space.
And again, I think the Chambers is more positive about this whole situation as well. I'm not going to speak for them tonight. I'm just saying, being on their committee, I'm hearing good vibes from that. I'm seeing things happen. And so, Councillor Tapman, give it a chance. I think if we don't like it next year, we can talk about it. But I think we need to be part of a tourism initiative economically.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. And thank you for coming tonight. And I know you've spoken with the DBIA, you've spoken with the Chamber, and actually even Northumberland County, which you really don't have to do. But it's all about bringing together what we're doing, not just tourism. It's about promoting Brighton, getting people to live here, getting people to spend money here, creating jobs. It's all part and parcel. So I just thank you for what you've done and the work that you're doing, and I'm looking forward to this partnership.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Anything else? Councillor LeBlanc.
Well, through you, Mayor, I love your passion. The way you speak, the way you go through this and everything. I ran on getting economic development and getting tourism back. And I know it was what she wanted. Emily Rowley kind of bent our arms to get that money in there quickly, in emergency. And I'm there. The other thing I'd like to see, and I'm going to ask you a question, would an economic development person help you with this? Because I've read this, and I've read what the Deputy Mayor done, and I've listened to her in past meetings on those things. I think she's passionate for that. So I want to know, do you think it would help out?
Oh, extraordinarily. This relationship will work best if there is a staff member in place who can be our main point of contact.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? I have a motion moved by Councillor Anderson, seconded by Councillor Bateman, that Council receive the delegation from Doug Stevenson, Bay of Quinte Regional Marketing Board, as an update. Is there any further discussion? All in favor? Are there any opposed? The motion is carried. Thank you. And our final delegation this evening is Trina Connell and Rochelle Moore of BDO Canada. These are our auditors. They get 10 minutes, and I've had that discussion with them.
Hey, time's ticking.
Not yet. You start talking, I'll start timing.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Thank you for having us here today. So to keep this moving, I'm going to start with our independent auditor's report. So if you've taken a look at the financial statements, you will see that the audit report is a little bit longer than it normally is. So in this past year, audit standards did change, and we were required to have a new audit report. So there's just more content within it. The end result is still the same. So the responsibilities of management and those charged with governance are preparation and fair presentation of the financial statements in accordance with Canadian public sector accounting standards. Management's responsible for internal control necessary to enable the preparation of the financial statements that are free from material misstatement. Responsible for assessing matters relating to going concern and using the going concern basis of accounting. And they are responsible for overseeing the financial reporting process. As auditors, our responsibility is to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the financial statements as a whole are free from material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error. To issue an auditor's report that includes our opinion. To conduct the audit under Canadian generally accepted accounting audit standards. Identify and assess the risks of material misstatement. Design and perform audit procedures responsive to those risks. to obtain audit evidence that is sufficient and appropriate to provide a basis for our opinion, to obtain an understanding of internal controls relevant to the audit in order to design the appropriate audit procedures, to evaluate the appropriateness of the accounting policies, to evaluate the reasonableness of management's accounting estimates, to conclude on management's use of the going concern basis of accounting, and to evaluate the overall presentation structure and content of the financial statements and disclosure. So our opinion is that the financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of municipality of Brighton. So moving through the financial statements now, your financial assets are $10,308,000. So financial assets are those assets which could provide resources to discharge existing liabilities or finance future operations. So in the year, this financial assets include cash, taxes receivables, accounts receivables, and inventory for resale. Your total assets increased $1.16 million or 13%. The contributing factors for the increase was cash held at year end and taxes receivables at year end. So your net debt at the end of the year is $2.6 million. Net debt forms part of the financial position and is the difference between the financial assets and liabilities. So your liabilities have increased $1 million or 9% this year, and this is as a result of $480,000 of payables at year end. There were significant amounts of construction progress holdbacks outstanding at the end of the year relating to building, sidewalks, and the stage construction projects. So it's just the timing of this work that caused this balance at the year end. The payables also include an accrual for a payable to the Ministry of Environment. Deferred revenue also increased $953,000, and this is due to an increase in development charges. OCIF funding increased that was deferred due to the result of roadworks not being done until 2019, so that amount was deferred. Gas tax was not used, as much was not used in the year, so there's more deferred this year. And again, Memorial Park upgrades was deferred and skate park donations. Overall, the $390,000 decrease in municipal debt, and that was a result of your annual payments throughout the year. So the non-financial assets are $72.5 million. So these basically are your capital assets. So throughout the year, you spent $2.9 million on new assets, plus you received an additional $4.3 million of contributed assets. The main capital outlays this year was the renovation for the administration building and the library here, completion of various roads projects, which are ongoing every year, and you did assume 12 roads this year, and I believe last year it was 3 roads, so big difference year over year. So these are graphs showing your operations year over year. Bottom one is 2017's revenue, top one's 2018. And so basically you're seeing a slight change in the percentages. Taxes receivable appears to have shrunk, but that's really because your assumptions increased so much, and that was a big portion of taking of just the percentage value wise. And that's the biggest change in the year for that. So if we go through revenues now, your revenues were $18.6 million. They increased $2.5 million or 16% over prior years. So there's increase in taxation revenue of $484,000, which you had budgeted for. Increase in user fees of $525,000, and you had rate increases in the year. Federal grants decrease a result of $164,000 as you use less of your gas tax funding this year. It has been deferred, and they also received $138,000 in 2017 for the Clean Water and Wastewater Fund. Provincial grants also decrease as you deferred the OCIF funding of $223,000. However, you did receive $100,000 Trillium grant this year. And as I discussed, your increase of contributed tangible capital assets was a $1.8 million increase for the 12 roads. And there was a donation of $100,000 received for the library. which was new this year. Okay, so now again, we have the statement of operations, the expense side of things. Again, 2018 on the top, 2017 on the bottom. And again, most of the percentages did not change a whole lot. The biggest change was purchases of materials and supplies. There was a 5% increase there. And this is a result of increases of costs due to the elections, additional legal fees for the Ministry of Environment issue, and fines paid to the Ministry of Environment. So that was the biggest change there. And so $15.2 million is what you spent in the year. That's an increase of $1.8 million or 13%. So government general increased $305,000 due to additional staffing, legal fees, and election expenses. Protection decreased $82,000 as you received a rebate for policing. Transportation services increased $313,000. This was an increase in consulting costs for the Stormwater Master Plan, as well as contract work consulting due to the departure of staff. And increase in amortization as you had acquired more assets. Environmental services increased $856,000 due to fines accrued, removal of biosolids, consulting for the environmental assessment, and the RFP costs and related to the MBBR design. Health decreased $116,000 as last year there were additional costs for the Brighton Health Services Center. Planning and development increased $452,000 due to consultant costs required due to vacant positions and legal fees for the OMB. So these are your expenses just being shown by area. You can see general is relatively, it fluctuates up and down. We've already gone through the main causes for those. Protections, stable. Transportation did jump up a little this year. And that was the Stormwater Master Plan, as I said before, and additional amortization. Environmental, we've already discussed that with the Ministry of Environment. The rest are relatively stable, and the planning did jump this year as you were short planners and there were consultants filling those roles instead of staff members. Okay, so this shows your overall revenue and expenses as well as your annual surplus for the current year, and it's just a history of it. So you can see that your revenues have increased. Your expenses has also relatedly increased, but your surplus also, you did end up with a surplus of $3.3 million. So still on a trend upwards that way. So this chart shows a comparison of your surplus. So what we do is we take your annual surplus and add back the amortization. So that's jumping your surplus up, and then we show what you've spent in your capital asset additions. So what's that saying is that you have brought in enough to more or less fund your ads for the year. And so this one you're going to see is that the net financial debt has been steadily increasing in the past few years. And the financial, so you're going to see the green line is your net assets, so it's going down. And then the blue is your municipal debt. So as you can see, you did have payments this year, so there was no additional debt in the year in 2018. So there was a reduction of the debt going forward, and overall your surplus, annual surplus deficit decreased from 2014 and 2015, but it has increased in the past few years. And basically your surpluses in the past few years are from your contributed surpluses, or contributed assets that have been added into the municipality. And so the rest of the financial statements are all your accounting policies and notes, and they tie back to your statements. So they're going to give you more information on the different numbers there. So questions?
I'll open the floor to members of council for questions. Councillor Anderson.
Just one, I probably know the answer, but financial assets of $10,300,000, The reserves in there, as well as what?
Your financial assets?
The reserves are not included.
They're not included?
They're part of the accumulated surplus.
So they are down, your reserves are in part of the so page
Could I ask
5.
the auditors to just approach the microphone a little more?
Sorry.
Thank you.
So on page 5 of your financial statements, your accumulated surplus is $69.9 million, and that's broken down on note 9. And that's where you're going to see your reserves.
Okay.
So note 9 is on page 17 of the financial statements. And not in the presentation of the actual financial statement.
The 51-page document, Councillor Anderson.
I've read it from back to front.
I bet you have.
So that's why I'm laughing.
And so on that note, you'll see that your reserve fund balances are $7.1 million in that line there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Rowley, did you have any other questions from members of council? Councillor Rowley, did you have a question?
It's regarding the management letter, a letter of management. Would you be providing copies of that?
Yeah, they'll be forwarded to Linda, and she'll send them off.
To council as well?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions from members of council? I have a motion. Councillor LeBlanc?
On page 11 on your...
Councillor LeBlanc, can you please speak into the microphone?
Sorry, yes.
Thank you.
Through you, Deputy Mayor. On page 11...
I'm still the mayor.
To the mayor. To the mayor. Sorry. To the mayor. On page 11, transportation services increased by $313,000. Increase in consultant fees, stormwater management plan, and contract work consulting fees, and department increases and abnormalities of $5.2 million. Correct?
Yep.
I read that right?
Yep.
In equity assets, all right? The next thing is environmental services increase of $856,000.
Yep.
Then in planning and environmental services and consulting fees, you have $452,000. And you have another one, which is health services, cost of writing, that's okay, that one there is fine. But the other two that I look at, and the MOE, the first one, government general increases of $305,000 due to hiring practices and legal fees due to MOE issues. What does that add up to?
Well, I haven't added, I can add them up for you.
That's separate. Mayor, is the environmental service increase of 856. There's a lot of work being done there. That's got nothing to do with actual legal fees.
No, it's not the
MBBR.
full 856 is not fully legal fees. That's the entire, everything that's...
Design, consulting fees.
Everything, that's...
For the MBBR, correct?
Yeah.
Right.
But that's the whole environmental services line in your financial statement. Those were the multiple things that caused the increase year over year.
So the 856 includes staffing costs,
Yep.
any vehicles we would have purchased. Biosolids removal.
Consulting, environmental assessments. Yeah, so basically what we've done is said what changed year over year to cause the increase.
Okay. That's good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councillor Tadman.
Through you, Mayor, but to that point, it's because we're doing things there.
That's right, yeah. A lot of this is just regular
Yeah.
maintenance and
It's
things that are required for the municipality to be doing on a regular basis.
Right. So,
And they're not all annual.
Yeah,
So
and I
some
think-
years they're higher than others.
yeah, I think the confusion there was because it says due fines accrued to MOE. Environmental service increased.
Oh, okay.
Due fines accrued to MOE is one thing, but it's not.
It's a continuous sentence, yeah.
Yeah.
So to the fines, the removal of the biosolids, to the whole amount
Yeah.
added into that.
And we can
accumulation.
find the individual amounts when we want to, if we really want to sit down and read all those other pages.
I think if you want the individual amounts, you'll have to go to Linda. They're not like outlined line by
Not
line.
line by line, no.
No, not within the financial statements. That's why we highlighted them here, so you could have an idea of what's in there.
Yeah, so our financial director would have those if
Yes.
that was your interest.
No, through you, Mayor.
Go ahead.
My question was, I sort of based it first, is that some people have come and approached me that we don't do enough for the environment. So I just wanted to show that in 1 year we had spent 1.8 million for the environment.
Yeah, so basically if they're looking for that, like for your environmental services, you can go to your financial statement and go to your statement of operation, and you actually spent $2.9 million on environmental services.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? I have a motion moved by Councillor Rowley, seconded by Councillor Tadman, that Council receive the presentation from Trina Connell and Rochelle Moore of BDO Canada for the 2018 audited financial statements. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? The motion's carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll move on to, I'll just let you get your purse. We'll move on to citizens' comment. We have one citizen's comment this evening from Mr. Craig Kerr. Mr. Kerr's comment will be with regard to the staff report on the curling club roof. Do you want to come forward, Mr. Kerr? And Craig, you have 2 minutes. You're on. Oh, not yet. Now you're on.
Yeah, now I am. I've forgotten. Mayor Ostrander, members of council, and CEO Castleman. I want to address the item of replacing the curling club roof that's on the agenda tonight. And unfortunately, I learned of this agenda item a little too late to appear as a delegation. The curling club has been maintaining this building and all its equipment at a very high standard for many years, entirely at our own expense. Because it's a municipally owned facility, in 2019, we negotiated a partnership agreement with the municipality that defined the responsibilities for maintenance items and capital items, among several other things. Unfortunately, the agreement was negotiated too late for certain items to be included in the budget process, and that's specifically the question of having the roof replaced. We have been repairing the leaky roof steadily over the last 3 years, as well as repairing the internal damage that's been caused by these leaks. Last year, we spent $15,000 in upgrades and redecorating to make the facility more attractive, to members and to visitors. And this year, we're planning on a further $15,000 in upgrades to the washrooms and the change rooms. And this budget, sadly, will need to include repairs to the damages caused to last year's project because of the leaks. A competent local roofing contractor who's been maintaining the roof through this whole period has advised us it makes no sense to continue repairs on a patchwork basis. It's more economical to replace the roof. The staff report indicates we should simply continue patching the leaks as they occur and continue to repair the internal damage. The rationale for this recommendation seems to be in part that the municipality intends to have a plan for replacing the arena and the curling club in 2 years, and hence the building may be torn down in 5 years. But reality says that this plan is completed in 2 years. There still needs to be a search for suitable land, process of acquiring the land, rezoning, and potentially official plan amendments, search for suitable funding arrangements, followed by a design-build process, and then the building itself. So with the best intentions in the world, that work won't be completed in 5 years, and meanwhile, we'll be putting out a substantial amount of money in fixing a leaky ship. The net cost to the municipality to replace the roof at this point, with a projected $30,000 cost, is $7,500. The balance of the funding that's required of that $30,000 comes from the 25% contribution that the curling club will make as part of that agreement towards the capital expenditure. And then the $15,000, which is owing to the curling club, as half of the heat and hydro from last year, again according to the agreement. And that leaves $7,500 yet to be found. So this arrangement that I just outlined means that the municipality is paying 25% of the capital cost of replacing the whole roof, and the curling club is paying 75%. And this ratio is exactly the opposite of that which is contemplated under the agreement that we just recently signed, which says it's 25% on the curling club and 75% on the municipality. So as a last thought, if you bear with me, I want to say that there isn't a person here that would experience a perpetually leaking roof on their own home and would opt for simply repairing the leaks to the roof and repairing all the internal damage on a long-standing basis, rather than replacing the roof itself. And the curling club is home to about 250 members, and it's an asset of the municipality. I'll leave it with you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Kerr. I have a motion moved by Councillor Rowley, seconded by Councillor Tadman, that Council receives the citizens' comment from June 17th, 2019 Council meeting. Is there any discussion? Councillor Rowley.
I would like to make a few comments, but I will wait until we discuss it under 9.5. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? The motion is carried. Now we'll move into staff reports. Our first report is the Finance and Administration Department report, Financial Statement Approval Report. Mrs. Whitfield, we have read your report. Do you have anything to add or highlight?
Just one thing. The trust statements on page 28 would also need to be signed, so I'm asking for an amendment to that resolution to sign page 5 and page 28, please.
Councillor Rowley, this is your motion. When I read it, were you okay with adding that?
Yes.
Councillor Tadman as the seconder. To sign page 5, Consolidated Statement of Financial Position, and page 28. Does it have a name?
Trust Statement of Financial Position.
Trust Statement of Financial Position. Did I get that right? I have a motion moved by Councillor Rowley, seconded by Councillor Tadman, that Council approves the 2018 audited financial statements as presented by BDO Chartered Accountants and authorizes the Mayor and Deputy Mayor to sign page 5, the Consolidated Statement of Financial Position, and page 28, the Trust Statement of Financial Position on behalf of Council. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Are there any opposed? Motion is carried. Our next staff report is with regard to the Bay of Quinte Regional Marketing Board Memorandum of Understanding. We did receive a report, but it came in a little late. I'm not sure where I put mine. Mr. Castleman, I've read it. I hope other members of council had an opportunity to. Do you have anything to add or highlight?
I'm not happy to answer any questions.
I have a motion moved by Councillor Rowley, seconded by Councillor Tadman, that Council authorize the Mayor and Clerk to execute a memorandum of, I'm going to say understanding, because that's what it's titled as. Is that okay, Councillors Rowley and Tadman? If I change the word agreement to understanding? Yes? It is.
Somebody forged it.
No, ma'am. Are you withdrawing your second of that?
I am.
Oh, I'll just write your name beside it. You can sign it later. Does that work? I have a motion moved by Councillor Rowley, seconded by Deputy Mayor Vink, that Council authorize the Mayor and Clerk to execute a memorandum of understanding between the Municipality of Brighton and the Bay of Quinte Regional Marketing Board, as depicted in the attachment appended hereto. Is there any discussion? Deputy Mayor.
Just clarification from the CAO. You have met with Doug and you've discussed this memorandum, and you're content with what's been brought forward?
Doug and I have indeed met, and as a result of that discussion, there were various amendments that were put forward with respect to the draft at my request, and Doug has made all of those recommended changes.
Councillor Tadman, did you have your hand up? You had a question? Comment?
I did, and I was trying to find the page. We paid $17,000 this year. for the original contract?
That, give or take, 17.5 maybe? 18,
And with each year it increases?
18.3, and it increases every year, yes.
And next year is, because I can't find it right now.
21,319.
Oh, there it is. It's on page 2 of the agreement, and the
Okay, I got it.
21.3 is next year.
So it goes up each year, and in 5 years, it'll go up to 27,000?
4 years.
In 4 years?
Yep.
I stand to say that I'm not supporting this.
Very well. Anything further? Councillor Bateman?
The only question I had on it was under the funding on page 2 for this year, April 2019 to March 2020. I understand the per capita and stuff. Are we paying that full brunt of the 18.55, or is that going to be a prorated amount? Because under no fault of anybody, we did get into the game a little late, so we don't have the same level.
So we are paying from April of 2019 to March of 2020. So that's, we will be paying full freight for that of $1.55 per capita for this year to March of 2020. That's how the memorandum's laid out. And I think we've already paid it, have we not? And I think we've already paid it, have we not?
Yes, we have.
I thought so. Deputy Mayor?
Even though we got in a little bit late and maybe we don't have what we want in here, next year we will. But I think other than that, there's a lot of things in the works. We're going to get our full year's worth of what we're paying for.
I think we already heard tonight that the Bay of Quinte Regional Marketing Board and the Chamber are working together on something over at King Edward Park, and we've already heard it looks like we're going to get a kiosk here in this building for tourist purposes. So I'm happy to see that they're using our money for Brighton's benefit. It's pleasing. Councillor Bateman, did you have another question or comment?
No, I don't disagree with that. I just want to understand it myself, because inevitably when these hit the market, residents may have questions, business owners may have questions. So if they don't see their business in there, they're going to say, why not me? Why them? So I just want to be prepared for an answer so that we can say next year it will be more robust. It was because of this. It's going to get better, just so we can give informed answers to the inevitable questions. That's all.
Fair enough. Anything further? All those in favor? Are there any opposed? The motion is carried. Our next staff report is with regard to the Joint Election Compliance Audit Committee procedures to amend bylaw 080-2018. Madam Clerk, we've read your report. Do you have anything to add or highlight? And the clerk is indicating she has nothing to add or highlight. I have a motion moved by Councillor Tadman, second by Councillor LeBlanc, that Council receive the staff report regarding a bylaw to amend bylaw 80-2018, which establishes the Joint Compliance Audit Committee to include Schedule B, Joint Municipal Election Compliance Audit Committee Rules of Procedure. Is there any discussion? Councillor LeBlanc?
Through you, Mayor. On this bylaw here, when does the county have an election? Because when I read this, it says about transparency, compliance, and everything. Are we joining the county for elections with this bylaw?
The county does not have elections.
That's what I thought.
County council is elected by virtue of who ends up as the mayor in the 7 municipalities.
Does this bylaw, through you, Mayor, give the county any rights to the town of Brighton's election system?
No, this is an audit committee. So if someone were to challenge any of our the financial the reports that we put in after, actually not just us, anyone who ran puts in those papers after the election. If anyone were to challenge us, it would go through this joint committee that is run through the county for all 7 municipalities in the county. And I assume the committee wanted to make these procedural changes, and because we are a joint member, we have to agree to them.
Okay.
Are you sure? Because you're
Through you, Mayor, the county doesn't work very well with the town. We've already seen that. And the thing is...
In fairness, I think that might just be one department we're worried about at the moment.
Right. But the thing is, why would I give him more power, more authority over Brighton?
So this audit committee is not a county committee. It is a joint committee of the 7 municipalities in the county. Okay. Councillor Tadman.
As much as I hate to disagree with you, Councillor LeBlanc, I think we get along very well with the county. And also, our mayor represents us at the county, so if you have any complaints, you take it to him and he brings it to the county.
I'm happy to do that for you, Councillor LeBlanc. Anything further? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Our next report is with regard to the skate park design process update. Mr. Miller, we've read your report. Do you have anything to add or highlight?
Just to highlight the public meeting we have this coming Thursday night at King Edward Park Community Center at 6:30. Hoping to see a lot of interested youth out there. We have canvassed the public schools, the high school. Our designers are actually going to Brighton Public School for a bit of an assembly to kind of get a bit more support there because I really want to get as much design ideas from the youth because essentially it's their park as they can. So,
may I ask if they'll be attending the other 2 public schools in the community?
I don't believe it this time, no.
Would it be appropriate to suggest that they do because it's their park too?
Sure.
Yeah. Whether they live in Smithfield or up north of the community. So I have a motion moved by Councillor Tadman, seconded by Councillor LeBlanc, that Council receives the report on the skateboard park design process as information. Is there any further discussion? Councillor Tadman?
I think it's a good point that you made, Mayor, and also I usually go out to breakfast tomorrow at Codrington, and Leanne's always very good at promoting things, so I'll take this with me.
Thank you, Councillor Tadman.
Because there's kids out there that come in to use the skate park.
Yeah. Any further discussion? Those in favor? Any opposed? The motion's carried. Our next report is with regard to the curling club roof. Mr. Miller, we've read your report. Do you have anything to add or highlight?
Not at this time.
I have a motion moved by Councillor LeBlanc, seconded by Councillor Tadman, that the Municipality of Brighton Council receives the staff report and Council directs staff to inform the Brighton and District Curling Club to repair the roof in spots where water damage has occurred as per the agreement section 18, repair and maintenance. Is there any discussion? Councillor Rowley.
Thank you, Mayor. If I may ask Ms. Whitfield, as Mr. Kerr previously said, the municipality owes $15,000 for shared expenses. Did we not also budget anything in our, was there any dollar amount budgeted during our budget time? I'm thinking maybe 10,000 or something to give them. Was that over and above?
No, there was the 15,000 that was budgeted. In our original budget discussions with staff, we were going to have 10,000 as a transfer to reserve. And then when the agreement was struck with the curling club, it was changed to $15,000 to the curling club rather than $10,000 in reserves.
So all they're getting from us this year at this particular point is the $15,000 for shared expenses.
That's all that was budgeted. Yes.
That's all we had budgeted for.
Yes.
But there's $10,000 in a curling club reserve?
I don't know what the curling club may have in reserves, but we do not.
We do not have anything in reserves?
No.
Okay. May I just make a comment after that, or no?
Sure.
I'll wait.
Quickly. Okay, I'll go around and I'll come back to you. Councillor Anderson.
I sort of lost my train of thought with that, but is what Mr. Kerr's telling us tonight accurate as far as his numbers? I'm not questioning Mr. Kerr. I'm just saying, before I go any further, I just want to make sure we're talking the accurate numbers here.
Instead of answering the question whether Mr. Kerr's numbers are accurate, perhaps you could tell us what we've budgeted for the curling club and if we have any monies in reserve specific to the curling club. I know she just did. I wanted to repeat it.
No,
Okay, so the municipality has allocated in the budget $15,000 to be paid to the curling club for 50% of the utility costs of running the building. As Mr. Kerr spoke, he did mention that perhaps the curling club would be willing to relinquish that $15,000. At least that's the way I heard it. Council may have heard it differently. And if indeed the curling club was going to relinquish that $15,000 in order to replace the roof, and the curling club were to then kick in another 25% per the agreement, then what Mr. Kerr said would be a viable solution.
so I'm still have the floor, I hope.
Your question was answered,
All
right?
right.
So I'm going to come back to you, okay?
Thank you.
Councillor Tadman.
Lost my knob here on the end, Doug. Thank you.
It's really none of our business. Carry on.
I feel much better now. Thank you. How much is, can I direct this, Mayor, to our former councillor Kerr? How much is the total new roof? I didn't hear the total cost.
The estimated value, I think, is about $30,000.
Am I the seconder on this motion?
You are?
And do I understand that you could use that 15,000 that is allotted to put towards the roof?
During Mr. Kerr's citizen's comment, he suggested that instead of turning the $15,000 over to the curling club for operations, that the curling club would be acceptable to use that for roof replacement, if that was council's wish.
And the agreement is for 25%? That's your responsibility in the agreement.
So council would have to come up with another, give or take, $7,500.
Yeah.
Ballpark. We'd have to go out to tender, of course. We don't know the actual value, but we're guesstimating.
And the other thing that I'm very aware of, being on the accessibility committee, that by 2025 it has to be accessible. But that's 6 years from now, and a lot of damage could be done to that curling club in the meantime, and it's horrible living with a leaky roof, as the Legion found out too. It does a lot of damage. So I want to take am I a seconder on that motion?
You are?
For all the enjoyment that number 250 people got to curl, I would support the 7,500. So take my name off. Make a motion.
Councillor Tadman has withdrawn her name. There is now no motion to discuss. So would someone like to put a motion on the floor?
Sure.
Or would someone like to second this motion?
Why don't we amend the motion?
Because we can't amend this motion that would negate the original statement of the motion procedurally. We should withdraw it and put a new motion on the floor. Would someone like to put a motion on the floor?
I would like to put a motion on the floor, and I concur with Councillor Tadman. We just saw what the Legion has been going through as well. Fixing and patching at the end of the day will probably create some more problems, not only for shingles, but probably structurally as well. And the curling club seems to be doing a lot of inside work that, once again, it's our building. We need to protect the inside as well as the roof. So I would like to put a motion on the floor.
What's your motion?
That we, no, I don't want to write it.
I will.
I can't write. I can't spell. That we approve the 22.5, I guess.
Actually, let's not go down that road.
15
Let's simply direct staff to replace the curling club roof.
That's a good motion. If you do, that's a good motion.
And I don't expect staff to get out there with their ladders and hammer.
Okay.
Hold on here, though. We're not going to pay the whole works.
No, we're not paying the whole work.
We're going to direct staff.
We're going to give them the 15,000 for sure. Well, they're going to get that regardless, right?
So if we direct staff to issue an RFP for the replacement of the roof, then the agreement kicks in and the curling club pays their 25%.
As per agreement then on that.
Okay.
All right. That's a good motion.
Oh, I'm so smart.
Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Will the 15,000 be included in the wording at all? To the mover and seconder, will the 15,000 be included at all?
I guess it should be, right? I mean, that's what the curling club has agreed to already, right? So we can put it in there.
We need to put it in the proper wording.
However you figure out that wording, it will be good.
So it's going to read that council directs staff to issue RFP per the agreement and utilizing the $15,000 budgeted amount?
Right.
Is that a fair statement? Curling club budgeted amount?
The $15,000 curling club allocation.
That's a better way of putting it.
Yeah. It's money.
So here's what I've written, and it might not be entirely English, so here we go. That council directs staff to issue an RFP per the agreement and utilizing the $15,000 curling club allocation for roof replacement.
Do they? Ask a question?
Please do.
I guess we will wait for the RFP to come back, and then we will deliberate once again of the remaining monies. How
Oh, it's going to come
under 15,000?
No, the whole.
Yes, that's what we'll do.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We know we've got 15,000 towards it, but we should wait until the RFP comes back, right?
Go ahead.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I would suggest that we put the RFP out. We already know that the curling club is agreeing to the 25% of the cost plus $15,000. So we'll put the RFP out. When the RFP results are back, then we will make a recommendation to council how we fund the remainder of that.
And that was seconded by Councillor Tadman?
Yes.
So I have a motion moved by Councillor Rowley, seconded by Councillor Tadman. The council directs staff to issue an RFP for roof replacement, for curling club roof replacement, to be paid per the agreement and utilizing the $15,000 curling club allocation. Councillor Bateman.
Kind of a question, kind of a statement, I guess. I'm in favor of this because everybody knows where I stand on recreation, whether it's for youth or seniors, but this is an aging facility, just like our arena is, barring the new addition. So this in the end will be, with that money and that $7,500, but sooner than later, I would like to see us put a plan in place, because it is part of the strategic plan, on what we're going to do in the future, because in 2024, 2025, regardless of how much money we throw at this, you're throwing good money after bad if we don't have a plan in place. And I'm going to go out there and I'll probably be crucified for it. We've seen a sign for a new retirement complex. I'm not saying that shouldn't be there or should be there, but I'm saying there's more than enough acreage there, if I'm not mistaken. Mr. Miller can correct me, we'd probably need approximately 10 acres for a dual facility, curling club and arena complex. So maybe at some point we could direct staff to engage in talks on how much it would cost to purchase land there.
Right, so that's a
we
discussion.
need a plan.
So that's a discussion we should have in camera. Yeah, at some point. I can't remember. Oh, the plan, the strategic plan has us issuing a plan for ice surface, interior ice surface, by 2021, January of 2021. So really through next year, we should be coming up and devising a plan on what the future will hold. Now, if we can't get funding for a future arena curling club facility, then that plan, to Mr. Kerr's point, may sit on a shelf for a while until we can get recreational funding from upper levels of government. And I think that's probably certainly my biggest concern with regard to these what our development charges friends might call soft services. right? Go ahead.
No, I agree, and the sooner we can show that we're shovel-ready, you're not going to get Fed money or provincial money unless you show you have a plan and funding ready. The municipalities that have a plan will get that money.
Councillor Anderson.
I spoke about it before. I think it's time, though, and I'm agreeing with Councillor Bateman on this. I think it's time we get a committee going and get the interest of the community that is interested and head towards that 2022 point where we can start to say, here's where we potentially are going to get the money, here's potentially where we're going to be. And I mentioned today that Trent Hills is far ahead of us in doing that and have come up with a pretty good plan, I believe. If you look at the Northumberland News report, was very good on detail on how they brought it down from $40 million to 25 million or somewhere in there. And that's where we should be looking at now to go ahead based on what Mark's talking about here too, is what's the plan and where we're going with it. Then get the people on board now, and it'll take a lot of time. But so I just wanted to add to what Councillor Bateman was talking about.
Thank you, Councillor Anderson. Councillor Rowell.
Thank you. I think that was something that we discussed during our strategic plan exercise, that later this year we would probably review all of those master plans, which would include the recreation and green space one. So it'll be a good time to talk about all of that stuff, I think, coming forward.
Councillor LeBlanc, final comment.
That comment through you, Mayor, question.
Sure.
Mr. Miller, since you're in charge of recreation, does recreation, do we have any excess land or any land that's been purchased for building a facility like this?
Go ahead.
No, we do not, and I recommend that to be the first thing you do before you start to design something, because you need to know where to put it.
All right, anything further? All in favor? Those opposed? The motion's carried. Our next report is a request for grant and aid from the Brighton Auxiliary Rescue Unit. Mrs. Whitfield, we've read your report. Do you have anything to add or highlight?
No, I do not.
I have a motion moved by Councillor LeBlanc, seconded by Councillor Tadman, that council receives or supports.
Support.
Councillor LeBlanc, support? Support. The request for a grant and aid from the Brighton Auxiliary Rescue Unit number 515 in the amount of $1,000 plus free use of municipal dock space. If only we could find one. Any discussion? All those in favor? Those opposed? The motion is carried. Our next report is mileage reimbursement report. Mrs. Whitfield, we've read this report as well. Do you have anything to add or highlight?
No, I do not.
I have a motion moved by Councillor LeBlanc, seconded by Councillor Tadman, that council increase the mileage rates from 52 cents per kilometer to 58 cents per kilometer, and that council authorize staff to change rates annually to be consistent with Canada Revenue Agency per kilometer rate. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? The motion is carried. Our next report is with regard to strategic asset management policy. Mrs. Whitfield, we've read your report. Do you have anything to add or highlight?
No, I do not.
I have a motion moved by Deputy Mayor Vink, seconded by Councillor Bateman, that council approve the strategic asset management policy as attached. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? Any opposed? The motion is carried. And our final staff report is with regard to loan to Brian Todd Memorial Community Fund. And Deputy Mayor, you declared a conflict on this, did you not? So I'm going to need a mover. Moved by Councillor LeBlanc, seconded by Councillor Bateman, that council authorize the treasurer to pay $50,000 per year flat rate, interest-free, toward the outstanding loan to the Brian Todd Memorial Community Fund commencing March 1st, 2020, until the outstanding mortgage is repaid. Is there any discussion? Councillor Rowley.
Thank you. So I'm just looking at the back page of your report, Linda, the $334,455.58, that's the balance owing?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Because it's zero interest, you said, right?
Yes, that's correct. Anything further? All in favor? Any opposed? The motion is carried. And we move into, there are no notices of motion, just motions. And they have been signed differently than the original notices. So I'm going to go back to the original notices. They were signed differently than those who initiated the original notices. Different members of council have signed the motions. I am reverting back to the original movers and seconders. So I have a motion moved by Councillor LeBlanc, seconded by Councillor Bateman, that council direct staff to increase the 3-story limit on apartments and condos to 7 stories. Is there any discussion? Councillor Rowley.
Thank you. A couple of questions, maybe. I'm wondering, is this, Councillor LeBlanc, is this something that you think should be kind of blanket throughout the municipality, that all buildings from here on in could be increased from 3 to 7? My second question would be, is this something for discussion under our official plan as we're moving with that?
So I'll give Councillor LeBlanc an opportunity to respond to the first question. Councillor LeBlanc?
I can answer both, try to answer both. All right, what it is, it's through the downtown core. It's only for the downtown core, which is in the boundaries of the town. Because under the mature neighborhood and the official plan, they wanted to increase our density. One way to increase our density is to go up. We asked the firefighter at one meeting and he has no problem with it. It would also, if we want a hotel, it would also bring that because they're all 3 stories. Accessibility, anything over 4 stories is mandatory to have elevators. And in the official plan, and talking with the consultants, that's one of the things that's in there, is to increase our heights, to increase our density downtown, instead of having alleyways going behind people's homes to build another home. Basically, is to go up. Also, not that we may get that, but it leaves we're plowing the ground that if somebody wants to come here, the bylaw's already approved, so they don't have to go through a whole bunch of hoops to get there. And then council still has the decision to approve them or not approve them and where they want to go. That's where I'm going with that. Also, in talking with the seniors that have approached me, they need affordable apartments or condominiums to live because they're moving out of Brighton to find places to go accommodation. So we should accommodate the people that want to stay here and sell their homes to have that. That's where I go.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. I understand completely where you're going with this, and I get it, but I can't agree to just directing staff to do something without some sort of staff input and a report. So I'd be comfortable asking staff for a report on how this would work and what it would look like and what we need, knowing the ins and outs of it, but not as it is written right now.
Councillor Anderson.
I agree with Laura as well. However, I think it should wait, Councillor LeBlanc, till the neighborhood study is complete and the official plan is finished or revised at the end of the year. I think they need to, I know you've had discussions with them and we've all heard from what they agree. It's time to increase some infill, and going up is a good idea. However, 7 stories I don't think I'd agree with anyhow for our community. We have to recognize who are we and where are we going, and to jump to 7 stories in certain areas, and you say it's in the urban area, we have to define what that urban area is. If it's the same as the neighborhood study where they identify it, or is it somewhere else? And to put a hotel somewhere, how do we know that that's going to be even in the urban area? So maybe it's going to be somewhere else down the road. So I think we need to wait. We're maybe it's a great idea, I agree with you, but the height and to move on it right now, I don't think is a good plan.
Councillor
So
Tadman.
I'll be asking to leave it for now until those studies are completed.
Councillor Tadman.
Thank you, Mayor. I think we should refer this to staff. There's a lot to consider here, and one of the big things also is parking, and that is a major concern in the urban areas. So a good, thorough staff report talking to, which I know the CAO will, with planning and the bylaw and the chief building official and others. And so we'd have a comprehensive report before we make a decision. And I hope I haven't disappointed you, because I know you're very keen on this.
Mr. Castleman, did you have a comment?
I'll jump in here to try and give some framework to the discussion. We all know we have 3 studies underway right now. We have the mature neighborhood study that focuses on the downtown core. We have an official plan amendment that we're undergoing, and we have a comprehensive zoning bylaw that's underway also. Most recently, Council asked me to organize a couple of planning sessions, training sessions, to talk a little bit about those 3 studies. This is all about getting input into the process. Each one of these studies is going to result in a plan for the municipality. And this group, Council, is going to have to approve that plan. So we have to make sure that we have adequate input into the end product, along with listening to the comments of the community. So I think that we're going to have lots of time in order to do that, and I think what I'm interested in doing is hearing from the public what they think they want. We want to make sure that council has input into the process, and then I'm looking forward to professional recommendations coming from our planning people with respect to the appropriateness of going from 3 stories to 5 to 7, maybe to 12. Who knows what the magic number is going to be? I just came from a small municipality not so long ago, and we went from 8 stories to 21, and that was a significant increase. So I think we're going to have lots of discussion with respect to density and height, and that's going to play out over the course of the next few months. We're all very hopeful. The work plans say that we're going to have those 3 studies done by the end of the year. We're going to have several meetings between now and then, so that we'll all have an opportunity to have input into the end product, whether it's parking or height or density or whatever it happens to be. So those planning sessions, I met with our 2 planners over the course of the last week or so, and we're trying to nail down some dates. We're looking for as early as the last week in June, first week in July-ish. So we have to organize that in the next little while. So in the very near future, we're all going to have an opportunity for some input into those particular studies.
So I'm hearing some, I don't want to just vote on this without getting some more input. So I'm hearing that there may be a want to refer this to the consultant that's dealing with our neighborhood plan and our zoning and our official plan. Would you be amenable, Councillor LeBlanc as the mover, to changing this motion to read that council directs staff to review the 3-story limit on apartments and condos to 7 stories and refer to the planning consultant for et cetera, et cetera?
Being my first motion that I brought up, yes, but I'd also like to add one point.
You add your point while I'm writing.
Or add my point. If you look at Trent Hills, Councillor Anderson made comments of Trent Hill, how they're advancing and how they're going. We should take from their lead. Go look at the apartment buildings that are building there. They're 8 to 10 stories that they're building right now, and they're all brand new, so they can densify their population.
I just read and refer to the planning consultant, does staff understand that that's not Mr. Ty, it's the other, it's DM Wills? Everybody understands that? So I don't have to write out mature neighborhood study, official plan, and et cetera, et cetera. So I have a motion moved by Councillor LeBlanc, second by Councillor Bateman, that council directs staff to review the 3-story limit on apartments and condos to 7 stories and refer to the planning consultant. Is there any further discussion? Councillor Rowley.
I think the topic is definitely well worth discussing, but I think getting input from those who are certainly more expertise in this stuff than I, or maybe some of others, is probably worth waiting to get a good education on these things.
Very well. Councillor Bateman, are you okay with that change?
It's a step forward, so yes. There you go.
Was that your concern, Councillor? That's what I thought you were getting at. Anything further? All those in favor? Any opposed? The motion's carried. Our next motion is moved by Councillor LeBlanc, seconded by Councillor Bateman, that council directs staff to update the 1993 bylaw of food vendors on municipal properties. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Are there any opposed? The motion's carried. You got them both. And I have a motion moved by Councillor Bateman, seconded by Councillor LeBlanc, that council direct staff to adopt a 2-tier building permit process as follows. First stage permit would be issued to construct the building footings, foundation walls, and all underground associated works and drainage systems and grading. Second permit is only issued once first stage has met all specifications as set out in the original plans. Is there any discussion? Councillor Rowley.
Thank you, Mayor. After just listening to the consultant regarding our development charges and the fact that a lot of these development charges are paid at issue of building permits, would this be affected, doing it this way?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that question. Councillor Tadman, you had your hand up, that's all.
Councillor Rowley threw me off there for a minute. They're going to pay it up front.
But now we have, now the suggestion is a 2-tier.
If we're going to split the permit in half, what are they paying up front? Isn't that how?
Oh, I thought they were paying the whole thing no matter what. But I think this all has to be discussed with staff also.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Vink.
Thank you. I've built 5 houses. Development charges and building permit are different. They're paid separately. And when you build a house, you can only go so far and you can't go any further until you get the things signed off on. So splitting it or keeping it the same, there's no difference. You can only go so far until you get it approved, and then you have to go to the next stage and get it approved, next stage, get it approved. So I understand. I think what you're saying is you want more control to know that these things are done properly. But there's already that control in place. But again, just like the first motion, we need to get staff to tell us that. I think I wouldn't be okay with doing this unless we receive some sort of staff report.
All my experiences, I've only had one house built, but my son has built lots of homes and other people that I know well. And I think it's all in place. Now, you might hear the odd person that said things didn't get looked after, and people do make mistakes, but I think it's all there anyways. But let's hear from the staff that that's what they do.
Councillor Bateman.
I have no problem with this going back to staff for their input. I would encourage reach out to other communities, because I attended a lot of council meetings prior to this council being here today. Unless I fell asleep through a lot of them, we had and still have a lot of drainage issues in town because things weren't built where they were supposed to be built, right, wrong, or indifferent to whoever's fault it was. And I think if we reached out to the builders, you'd also find that they have no issue with this as well. So, to me, I don't see why we wouldn't do it, but I'm okay referring it back to staff.
Councillor Anderson.
Do we have are there other communities we can use as a comparison? And Coburg, we got one. Trenton does.
So the answer is yes. There are other communities nearby that we could probably.
So maybe we can research on how that's going.
Councillor LeBlanc.
this two-tier building permit was, I talked to a number of the builders. They kind of liked it. It stopped some of the problems that are going on now. We also have homeowners that their houses are built 10 to 12 inches not on their lot. This will stop this because it's all pegged before they built, and they'll be perfectly put on their lot. It also helps with the drainage and hopefully some of the flooding problems that we have and the draining issues and the lawsuits we have.
Councillor Tadman.
I must not hear from the same people, because I've never heard of some home being built where it's not supposed to. Every home, every lot has to have a survey, and it has to be, marked according to the survey. Some people do things illegal when they're building, and they don't bother with a permit, and also we have the protection of Lower Trent, that you're not to build in wetlands and a lot of places like that. So I hate that expression, we have our ducks in order, so I'm not going to say that, okay? But I think we have protection enough to know, and if something has gone wrong, it's not necessarily because we haven't got rules, it's because somebody has not followed the rules. And I'm not going to blame any one particular person, because I hate lawsuits.
Councillor Bateman, would you be okay if we change this motion to read that council directs staff to investigate a two-tier building permit process and report back to council?
I'm fine with that.
Councillor LeBlanc, would you be okay with that? So I have a motion moved by Councillor Bateman, seconded by Councillor LeBlanc, that council directs staff to investigate a two-tier building permit process and report back to council. Is there anything further? All those in favor? Are there any opposed? The motion is carried. We have no unfinished business. So we'll move into bylaws. I have a motion moved by Councillor Rowley, seconded by Councillor Tadman. The council gives a bylaw. It's first, second, and third reading and finally passes on this date, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 080-2018, being a bylaw to establish a joint municipal election compliance audit committee for the corporation of the municipality of Brighton and Northumberland County partner municipalities. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Are there any opposed? The motion is carried. There are no reports of advisory committees or boards. There are no reports of statutory committees or boards. We have two pieces of correspondence, and I have a motion moved by Councillor Tadman, second by Councillor Rowley, that council either receive or support the request from that council receive or support the request from Anna Vets by sponsoring a full edition in the quarter page at a rate of $595 plus HST. Councillor Tadman, are we receiving or supporting? Councillor Rowley, you okay with that?
I agree.
Madam Clerk, you have a comment?
I didn't follow the proper procedures when I put this on. It should have gone to the finance clerk first, and she would have given a report to council to let them know what is still remaining in the budget for these items. So we can wait and have her report back for this first, or?
Councillor Tadman, Councillor Rowley, UK, if we write that council refer the request to staff?
Is there a timeline, or that they?
Or we could just withdraw the motion, and the correspondence would then go to the Director of Finance, who would then bring it back to us.
Do it that way then.
But is there a timeline as to when they require these monies?
When they get it.
I don't know. Let's read the correspondence, shall we? The letter doesn't appear to have a deadline at all. So, Councillor Tadman, are you withdrawing the motion?
Yes.
I have a motion moved by Councillor LeBlanc. Sorry, moving on to the next piece of correspondence. Motion moved by Councillor LeBlanc, seconded by Councillor Tadman. The council receive or support the proclamation request from the Ministry of Seniors and Accessibility to proclaim June as Seniors Month in the municipality of Brighton. Councillor LeBlanc, I assume you want to support this?
Yes, I do want to support it. I was looking for word of support.
Councillor Tadman, you're okay with supporting this?
Yes.
Is there any discussion? Those in favor? Are there any opposed? The motion is carried. We have no FYI correspondence, so I'll open the floor to question period for members of the public. If you have any questions with regard to an agenda item, please step forward. No one coming up. We have no in-camera session. I have a motion moved by Councillor Bateman, seconded by Councillor Anderson. The council gives a bylaw. It's first, second, and third reading, and finally passes on this date, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the corporation of the municipality of Brighton council meeting held on June 17th, 2019. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Those opposed? The motion is carried. And finally, I have a motion moved by Councillor Bateman, seconded by Councillor Anderson, that the June 17th, 2019 council meeting adjourn at 8:11 p.m. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? Any opposed? The motion is carried. Thank you.